Hello everyone, welcome once again to the Bat Chat. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Steve Baxi.
And today Steve and I are finally getting back to the Batman animated series commentaries. Steve, we are just to the second episode of Volume 2. And today we're going to talk about what I think is both of our favorite episodes.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Perchance to Dream. This made... See, I gotta be careful. I want to say this made my number one when I did the top 10 rewind on this series.
I think it...
I'm pretty sure I could have looked at it before this, but it's been, it's been 3 or 4 years since I've made that. But anyway, it's my favorite episode. It's Steve's favorite episode. It's gonna be a lot of fun to talk about it. We joked before we recorded, or before we started recording. We joked about just pressing play and just sitting here and watching it, and letting you watch it too, and not saying anything. But we're not gonna do that. We're gonna discuss it and talk about it like we always do. And but I would of course suggest maybe giving it a watch beforehand, unless you're really super familiar with it. And if you want to watch it along with us while we're talking, and of course we'll do our level best to provide lots of context in case you're just gonna listen to it as a podcast. You can get out your Batman DVDs or go to Amazon Prime. We get up to timestamp 0, get it past the menus. And Steve, I watched this online earlier.
Okay.
And it does have the original intro on Amazon. Yeah.
Awesome.
Or at least it did when I watched it. Now, I don't think that changes. I'm pretty sure that's just in the file, right?
I hope so. You never know with this.
Steve, any preamble you'd like to do on your favorite episode before we get started?
Not really. I think we'll have a lot to say in the middle, so we'll see how
Okay, all right. Well, hopefully in 21 minutes, Steve, you'll have a chance to say what you want to say. Here we go. Everybody, please press play right now.
Yes, it's got the original intro.
Yes!
It's perfect. It's exactly how you need to see this.
If this didn't have the original intro, Steve was just going to get up out of his chair, walk away, and I was going to be stuck.
That's right.
Talking about this.
That's right. I've got a written commitment for this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Actually, we have a nonverbal contract. We actually have a written contract.
Yes.
That nobody knows. And one of them is if Steve doesn't get the intro he wants, he has the option. He's never taken it, but he does have the option to get up and leave.
Yes. Part of that contract was the Winter Soldier commentary and doing Bat Chat every week. It's all there.
Yep. It is illegal. We've made it very difficult for either of us to take the other one to court.
Yes, we did. I think it's important that a lot of times TV intros are just that, they're intros and no one really cares. I think it's important that this intro actually plays into the episode, and that it's important to see how this character, what he is, and what he's thought of his life and stuff. And by the way, easy tell that it's the Mad Hatter. It's his music playing right now.
Well, that was the one interesting point I had to make, Steve. So,
sorry.
I'm kidding. No, but you're absolutely right. It's foreshadowed right away, and that's a giveaway. And they used the Mad Hatter music is used a lot during the denouement.
Yes, it is.
Before you even see that Mad Hatter is wearing the Batsuit.
Yeah, yes, it is. They're really subtle about that. There's no other major hints aside from that music. It's not something kids necessarily would have picked up on. It's even something most adults don't really.
Well, and at the beginning here, there's no tell here of who the villain is. Like he just gets the machine thing dropped on his head, and that's it. Now, I will say I don't know that we need this scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's important that we get the intro with Batman in action, so I guess we don't have to legitimately see Batman in action, and that's something.
If you want to think of the intro as part of the episode, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I guess that it varies on that. I think it's important, though, that this is based on a comic. No one credits it. I'm not sure how much went into it. But there's a Batman comic, Detective 633. It's written by Peter Millian, I think. It's in one of his stories, and basically it's the same episode. The only difference is by the end that you learn it's not Mad Hatter. It's a guy who took over Bruce Wayne's mind and is trying to find his way out. And Batman trapped him in a loop that's exactly the life Bruce Wayne is in right now.
That's actually kind of in a way more interesting.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. The problem is that there's no setup for it, and you just open like Bruce Wayne in the bed, so you have no context whatsoever. It's really strange. But a lot of the stuff is like taken right from there, and it's not listed as a reference anywhere.
Yeah, the reason I say that we maybe didn't need that scene, or that scene the way it plays, is that I feel like obviously we're not going to get to the end, and it turns out that Batman was all a dream the whole time. There's no, I mean, you're making an episodic series, so in that way that's not going to happen. But for the sake of the story, you want to have this uncomfortable feeling that there's a chance this is the real reality and that the rest of it was a dream. Like we're playing with ideas of what is real and what is not, and perceptions and things, and so when you open an episode, and I guess I'm just saying that this is someone that's seen a lot of shows like this, and like nearly every science fiction or like geeky kind of show that I've watched has had this episode, right?
Yeah.
Where you have somebody that is seen as crazy because the normal status quo is supposed to be in their head, and they're like in an asylum or something. This one doesn't do the asylum thing, but like Buffy's got one, Smallville's got one, like a lot of shows have that. And looking at this, once we start questioning if the opening is real or not, that, well, we saw this thing go down on his head, so this has got to be all in his mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that can't be the dream.
Yeah. I think
that's all.
I think
it's also a show for kids.
Yeah, you don't want to scar them with that.
And, well, not just scarring them, but I'm looking at this from an adult with adult expectations. And a kid is maybe going to be duped. I mean, I know I was like, what the heck is going on when I was a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, I agree. I was the same way when I saw it. I think it's really interesting that Batman's always a character about bringing something into being, that he chooses to believe something very, very specific. And he's all about imposing that perception. He's all about making this moral code that he's adopted the norm. And so it's really natural to do an episode about doxastic voluntarism with Batman, the whole idea that a person chooses their beliefs, that some things aren't just a given. And we do both sides of that to a little bit, where Bruce, at the beginning, he can't will himself to believe his parents are alive, but he gets more and more okay with it. But the bigger, more inherent belief is that it's not just that it's not just about his parents, but this is a guy that perhaps needs Batman. That maybe even if his parents didn't die, that there's something about him naturally that's a little bit darker. And Kevin Conroy talks about this. He says this is his favorite episode, and he talks about how Batman is the real person from birth. The tragedy and everything surrounding it is kind of like Punisher-esque. It gave Batman a reason to come out, and it wasn't something that was necessarily born.
See, the way that's interesting, and I could see that, but I think it's also important to note that when he goes and sees Leslie Tompkins, she, for the context of this, gives him a pretty viable reason for why he thought he was Batman in a world where it's more mundane and he's not, right? And so the way I always interpreted it is that this is the program creates this perfect world based on a Bruce Wayne that has all the memories he has already.
Yeah.
So this is a Bruce Wayne that did go through seeing his parents murdered, and so regardless of what he might have been before his parents died, this Bruce Wayne in a perfect world where he still has all his memories intact would need Batman to be there.
Yeah. And also that ideals change. That the perfect life Bruce Wayne probably would have wanted as a kid is not something he's growing up with now. That you give him a perfect world, you give him a stereotypical perfect life, it may be in the back of his mind, but it's not something that he necessarily would have acted on the same way he would have at another point in his life.
Now I'm going to give you a complaint and a compliment all at the same time here. We see the Wayne Enterprises building, and it says W-E. W-E spells we. I think that's hilarious.
Yes,
but also because there is no we in Batman. But anyway, so you get W-E, but then right after that you see another sign that's gibberish, which is really, really great foreshadowing, a really good tell for what's going on, because eventually we're going to learn that you're not supposed to be able to read in a dream, which is nonsense, but whatever. And but is the deal that they already had the template for that tower, so they didn't change the letters, because you're not supposed to be able to read in a dream. So why can we read that, but we can't read the other sign 5 seconds after it?
I think it's just a production inconsistency at that point.
Yeah.
It is an issue because the whole reveal rests on the fact that Bruce Wayne can't read in a dream, and that's just not true. You can't do an episode that deep and then not look deep enough to say, well, just close your eyes for a second. Can you read in your mind? Yes, you can. That doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, unless we're saying that dreams and the way you see things in your mind, or like, you know, on your eyelids, are different things, but they would come from the same place.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people remember dreams where they read something. I mean,
I do. Yeah, sure.
It's just not
that's as much of a of kind of a myth and like a legend as like you can only dream for 45 seconds at a time.
Yeah, and the whole you only use 1% of your brain.
1% of your brain. Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah, like all those science myths that people just kind of roll with, and whole comic books are made out of them.
You don't like Batman and Catwoman as a couple, so how do you feel about in Bruce Wayne's perfect world, he's with Selina Kyle? Because obviously Selina Kyle is not going around robbing anybody.
Yeah. I think it's something that they had to force make to work. Like I said, she's not Catwoman in this. She's not robbing people. She's just Selina Kyle as far as we know. So if we make a version of that character where she gives up half of herself to be with Bruce Wayne, I can buy it. It's still really unhealthy. And I think it would just...
Well, but the problem is you're reading too much into it, because you don't know if this isn't a perfect world where Bruce Wayne gets to decide exactly who she is. Where, like, he's not admitting what it is about her he likes. He's just made that look of that woman his perfect woman.
Yeah.
Is the way I always read it.
Bruce Wayne, and I don't remember, does he know Selina Kyle's Catwoman in that episode initially? When she first shows up?
Episode? I forget.
I don't remember.
I thought... I'm pretty sure that he does. I'm I'm pretty sure that it becomes kind of common knowledge real fast, but I forget.
Okay, I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, that Selina Kyle's this perfect woman, but he doesn't know what he likes about her. But I also that if it's an unhealthy thing,
that thumbs up is goofy and hilarious.
Oh, I love it. It's great.
That's very tick. It's like we're doing fine.
Yeah, it's great. But I think it feeds into the more of like Bruce Wayne is not a healthy mind to begin with, so maybe even his ideal relationship is not a healthy thing.
Well, he's a guy who is antisocial and doesn't play well with others, and I really like the idea that if we can read into that at all, that this world that he creates kind of reflects that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely so. I really like some of these.
Every time I see this, I just want Big Bird to start singing Alphabet.
Oh, that'd be great. I really like some of these animation choices. Like sometimes facial expressions just don't come out well enough in animation. But I love Bruce Wayne's every expression.
You're right, it is very expressive.
I love everything that he does with his teeth and the lines around his face. That's even in regular course, some of that's a little bit harder to draw without making it exaggerated, but they do it well enough, I think, all the way through. Like his grinding his teeth looking at the books, I really love.
I want to go in and find out. Apparently, also in a dream, you can only have text on one side of the of a book. But I want to go in and see a list of all of the other things that are allegedly left brain things.
Yeah.
You'd be able to do in a dream.
And it doesn't really make sense because right brain and left brain have to work together, and there's a connecting lobe between them. If you can't read, then you probably can't like walk and talk and reason in a dream. Yeah,
but on the other hand, again, it's I mean, I don't want to take up for it just because it's a thing made for kids, but the nice thing is they set up a rule. It's kind of a goofy conceit, but it's consistent within this.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's fine. It's not real science. And that's not the first time or the only time in this series that we pretend like a thing is actual science that it isn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cartoon. It does that. I really like, and I'm a huge film noir fan. I love noir. I watch them all the time. And I love that this episode is like one of the most in that way we've got. Like
that facial expression when he's driving and he's like really angry, that is such a Fleischer expression.
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
It's great. But I love.
I need a flare gun and some
He
flares.
never actually uses the flares.
That is my. Yeah, I don't know why he gets though. When I was a kid, I thought
He's
that.
not even carrying them. He's like, oh, they're out of stock. Oh, I guess I'll just take
Why
the
does
rope.
he? Yeah, I mean that's always the line I remember most from this. For some reason, just the delivery and the Connery. I need a flare gun and some flares. And when I was a kid, I always thought that he was talking about the thing that he already gotten because I didn't realize that a grappling hook was different than a flare gun because I was a little kid. And but going back and watching it now, it's like, why does he need that? Like, is that a scene that got cut? Like,
Really weird. No one talks about it.
Steve, I need a flare gun and some flares. Sorry, go.
I was just saying, I like that it does the noir trope of truth gets more and more clear in darkness. And so every time we're most in the illusion in broad daylight. The things make least sense when they're in the daylight. And the more Bruce is getting to the darker parts, not only of his psychology and of the city, but as the city actually turns to night, he's figuring more things out.
Yeah, because it's in the darkness that people reveal themselves because they think nobody's watching.
Exactly, and it's also a part of the whole. He's got an inherent darkness to him anyway. He almost only functions when it's dark.
What's wonderful about the way Shirley Walker uses this theme, not to suddenly jump to another thing, but we only have that long when we talk about these. Oh look, it's blah 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 blah. The graveyard or the wherever he's going. He's going to a church right now. Anyway, what I love about graveyard. It is a graveyard. It's blah 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 graveyard. What I love about what Walker does with the Mad Hatter theme here, to her credit, and this is a wonderful soundtrack, is it sounds like she's making the theme for this episode. Like this is just the Perchance to Dream theme, and then Mad Hatter shows up and you go, oh yeah, that's the Mad Hatter theme. Keep in mind that we've only had one Mad Hatter episode before this, so if it was shown in the same sequence it was produced in, and it probably wasn't, you would have only ever heard it the one time. So chances are you would not remember it.
Oh yeah, most definitely not. I think I know most people, even watching the series in any order and knowing Mad Hatter, they don't necessarily recognize the theme music.
And they don't necessarily see that coming.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the single most atmospheric thing in this entire show.
Oh yeah, totally.
It is and I mean like you got to have your gargoyle thing. See, I can't see a gargoyle in a Batman thing without thinking about like pouncing on people in the Arkham
like
games.
perching from it and doing like the inverted takedown.
Yeah, exactly.
This is really Hitchcock Vertigo, by the way. Another one of those films. There's a lot of stuff here that's also used from the Maltese Falcon, and Bruce would quote him a little bit here.
And this is also where Bruce gets rid of the Venom symbiote.
Yeah, yes it is. He gets rid of the Venom symbiote, and then it infects the police officer downstairs who hates him for unknown reasons.
Right.
I want to talk really quickly because we're running out of time because the episode's almost over, which is sad because it's so good. I want to talk a little bit about...
that's another Fleischer thing, man.
Oh,
the painted look and that one. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, it looks fantastic. That Batman, and I mentioned this when I did my Batman Gothic analysis a little while ago. The Batman is a Byronic hero, and that's something that not necessarily Lord Byron created, but something that was in literary tradition that he defined, and it goes as far back as ancient Greek tragedies. But the most popular version of that type of character is Hamlet, and Hamlet has a lot in common with what Bruce Wayne goes through here. So much so that the name of the episode comes from Hamlet's To Be or Not to Be a speech when he says, "'Tis a consumption devoutly to be wished, to die, to sleep, perchance to dream." And in that moment, Hamlet talking about whether or not he wants to die, and Bruce is really wrestling with that here, where if he gets stuck in the dream, it's effectively him dying. He doesn't want to live there. It's not who he is. And it's the death of that identity that gets it there. But Hamlet, in a lot of ways, is also about the whole idea that you choose what you live for. And the moment that's taken away from you, or the moment that fails to be a live belief or a live option of any kind, your whole life falls into question. And is it possible to find a new goal or a new personality or a new identity for yourself when everything's taken from you? And for Bruce, it's not. For Bruce, if it's Batman or nothing.
Yeah.
And in Hamlet,
and
different.
Well, and what's really interesting about that is the question is Bruce not able to handle this because it's not real, or is he not able to handle it because he's not Batman?
Yeah, like even
if this were a reality where he knew it wasn't real, but he was still Batman, and he still had the satisfaction of that in his almost kind of twisted way, right? That like that would be his idea of satisfaction. Could he kind of live with it? And I still think he couldn't.
I don't think I don't think he could. I think the further step to that would be, what if it's actually the DC universe gets rewritten and his parents are alive, but he has all of his memories? Could he live in the world at all if he's still Batman and his parents are alive? Like, what would be alive for that character at that point? Because he deals with them in almost absolutes. Like, the parents create the identity. The identity is who he is. What happens when he has to go backwards 20 years?
Yeah. You mean like if he actually went back to they never die, instead of having all those memories but dealing with them now?
I mean, like, exactly. Like, he has all the memories of being Batman. They're just alive now when it's not fake.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of imagine that he would still be as driven as he was because he lost them, and this would be like dealing with strangers.
Maybe so, but
I don't know. I mean, I think there are a couple of different ways to write that are equally believable, even if they're contrary.
Yeah, you could get a good Elseworlds out of that. It reminds me a lot of.
Depends on a writer's interpretation. I mean, like,
yeah,
I could really see different people having a different take on it.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the Superman comic for the Man Who Has Everything, where that parasite plant attached to Superman, and he sees like his ideal fantasy on Krypton, which they adapted later in Justice League Unlimited.
I also think that there is a degree of contradiction with Bruce Wayne where he sees himself as very much the opposite of Mad Hatter, where Mad Hatter is trying to live in a dream. He wants to create a world that is physically what he wishes it was, like with Wonderland. But isn't Batman doing exactly the same thing?
Yes.
Like, isn't Batman trying to create like a world that reflects his own worldview morality? He can't stand it the way it is, so he's got to be the symbol to try to change it. And they are very, very different. Mad Hatter wants to live in the world the way he wishes it was, and Batman is trying to change it. They are kind of different, but yet there's a correlation, there's a connection there.
Oh yeah, they're both forcing. Mad Hatter has the whole mind control gimmick. He wants to force the world to be in a particular fantasy, but it's only to appease him. And Bruce Wayne's got the same thing. Batman's got the same thing. The difference is that Batman and Bruce Wayne are not willing to sacrifice individuality for it.
Exactly. Like what we saw in other people's individuality, like what we saw that he ended up doing to Alice.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Like, Batman will not force every criminal on the streets to do this or die. Like, that's the whole point of his whole rule, that people have to choose this thing he's pushing for. But he's still pushing an ideal. It's still a fantasy. It's still never going to happen.
Yeah, and Mad Hatter wants to live in denial. Now, Batman might be in denial in the sense of, as people always say, thinking that he can change things in his lifetime.
Yeah.
And not make them worse, but he's not in denial in the sense that he can see the way the world is. And Mad Hatter refuses to do that. And that's why Mad Hatter doesn't get why, or at least that dream version that is obviously still just like real Mad Hatter, saying that, or expecting that Batman would rather live in his perfect world, even knowing that it's false.
Yeah.
Because that's Mad Hatter. I mean, he hated that he had to force Alice to love him with the chip he put in her head, but he still did that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't have any sort of hindrance to that ideal. And by the way, I love this scene. This is the scene I remember most every time I watch it, where Mad Hatter says, you of all people have the gall to ask me that. I love that. I love that whole delivery.
Well, and I guess that kind of goes back to what we were just talking about, too.
Yeah, it does. This is probably my favorite Mad Hatter story, period. It's just so good.
And I just think this is wonderfully tragic because Batman sort of kind of had a chance to, get everything he ever wanted, but he's not going to take it because it's not real. I mean, it's really sad. He's almost less tragic if he didn't actually experience it.
Yeah. And
sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just going to say, but on the other hand, I like how mundane that life is.
Yeah, I like the whole idea
that it's his perfect life, but it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, like Bruce Wayne was born from a very simple instance that happens almost daily, and so his fantasy would almost be the same thing of just living life the way it is daily. Yeah,
well, and like not having having that relief, not having the pressure. like being able to just be selfish
Yeah.
and live and just have whatever he wants. And I really like that line that Alfred has when he says that it is a life of leisure, but it could be worse. That's a really interesting way to put that.
Yeah, no, it totally is. And it's so fitting for that character because it's almost like he doesn't accept it no matter how naturally it's given to him. Like he could rid the entire world of crime and be in a perfect utopia, and he's still not necessarily a person that wants to settle down. And it's something he would still fight against no matter how purely and naturally it shows up.
And after the scene with Leslie Tompkins, I think that if you think about it, I mean, I almost appreciate Batman more when she's talking about how he's created what she thinks is the fantasy world of Batman because he's had everything handed to him.
Yeah.
And Bruce Wayne in real life had everything handed to him, and he and after his parents were murdered, he was compelled to do something with that.
Yeah, and it's fundamentally different from animated series Batman is fundamentally different from some other versions of Batman because in this they are very two distinct different identities. Bruce Wayne and Batman are not the same person.
That's right.
So it'd be interesting to see if this was reversed and we got a machine where Bruce Wayne got his ideal life. Would it be so different? Does it matter that the costume was on him or not? And because particularly with this version, would it almost be like the whole Darren Aronofsky Year One script where Batman is just broken, he makes his own, or Bruce Wayne is just broken, he makes his own life? Like, is he so much about people making everyday choices, no matter how big or small they are, because that's what Batman does every now and then, that his ideal life would just be that, like almost the whole 70s VIP Batman?
Well, I think it's fun that the very first thing he does when he decides to go after Batman is get a grappling hook.
Yes, that's awesome. It's great. It's so helpful.
It's just awesome. Real quick, do you buy? Because I think I do. Do you buy that? Because there is a Batman in that fake dream world, that Bruce Wayne immediately assumes that he must be the person responsible.
I think so.
Because I could see somebody arguing that the ending is a little bit rushed. I mean, I feel like if this had a couple episodes, we could have lived in that world and done more with it. But then I love how economical it is also, so maybe I wouldn't want that. But you get to the end, and he's like, well, it's got to be Batman because nobody else knows that I'm Batman. So, I mean, like, I think I buy it.
Yeah, I think it works. And I mean, Mad Hatter's always about maintaining an illusion. So it would have to be about Batman first. And it would have to be something that he assumes in that way. I don't think it's necessarily a problem. Maybe if we did get a status quo for it, I think it's just one of those things where if we ever got like an actual serialized Batman animated series, this would have been something that would have been a story arc, and it's something that would have worked over long term.
Because it is kind of a device, right? Where, like, why is the machine built so that if Bruce Wayne finds the one thing that couldn't be there without him, so like it's a contradiction, it doesn't make sense, it automatically turns into Mad Hatter. Like, why is that? Why doesn't that Batman just say, I don't know who you are, Mr. Wayne, get away from me? Like, why does it have to take off its mask and be Mad Hatter?
Yeah.
Except to end the episode and tell Batman what it is, and present Batman with the argument for you should stay here. Like that's kind of more about the ideas and getting us to the ending than it. But you can, I guess it's sort of like making a person insane. You can make anything work because it's a dream world.
Yeah, and I guess it doesn't help that the only appearance we've had in Mad Hatter isn't a very good episode either. Like, it's just okay.
This makes me like it more, though.
No, it does for me too. But I mean, like, if we had like a proper setup and a proper build up to this episode, and then maybe a little bit more afterwards, it might even work better. I feel like this is something that it's weird that they haven't taken it into the comics at least a little bit. Like, I don't remember any story arc that ever dealt with something like this aside from that one stray issue that may or may not have inspired it.
I just think it's weird that Mad Hatter, and I mean, I don't mean to, complain about this episode because I love it, but I've always thought about this. I don't know why it's built that way, again, where you take off the mask and it's Mad Hatter, when Mad Hatter himself doesn't know what Batman's dream world is. Like, it's clearly programmed to do that.
Yeah.
Where like whatever that whatever that weird element is probably going to be the thing that turns into Mad Hatter. Because the Mad Hatter in this world gets it, but the real Mad Hatter, because of course we have to preserve Batman's secret identity,
Yeah.
doesn't know what there's no kind of visual interface or anything.
Yeah, although I think it's kind of interesting that Mad Hatter has to have his hand in everything too. Like he creates a fantasy for Batman, but he has to almost in a joke way make sure there's a way for Batman to know it's him.
Good point, and maybe so he beats himself.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it's almost characteristic of him a little bit.
That's true.
With the whole motif he goes for, it's really obvious no matter what crime he's pulling that it falls into a pattern.
Okay, yeah, you're making me like that more because if you think about it, like he chose a literary character who is part of the storybook that the protagonist goes to and finds.
Yeah. And one of the children's book with some of the most well-known imagery and patterns of any children's book in history. Even if you haven't read it, you know the trappings of that story.
So when he creates Bruce Wayne's Wonderland, Mad Hatter has to be there somehow.
Yeah, like it's almost...
Even if he's Batman. And the idea of Batman as Mad Hatter is actually kind of a provocative idea if you think about it.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, no, that'd be really interesting. That'd be another place to take it. It's almost like the Paulini with Riddler and made him like a detective in the late 2000s stuff.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is the idea that you go into a dream, you are Batman, you go into a dream world, and Mad Hatter, partly because of his own like self-absorption, of course, casts himself as Batman, as you. The world revolves around Batman, and in Mad Hatter's mind, the world revolves around Mad Hatter. And he sees himself as like the keeper of Wonderland, like in that story in Alice in Wonderland, like Mad Hatter has like this control of his domain, and so he's got that in this, where like he's got to cast himself as Batman because the city's about Batman, and his Wonderland has to be about Mad Hatter. So in that way, it's actually really cool that he's Batman.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see almost like he could almost be like a little bit of a self-absorbed Batman, that Gotham is its own territory and it's all under Mad Hatter's control. And whether or not he chooses the Mad Hatter persona or the Batman persona, it's all about maintaining the integrity of what it is. Crime happens and it doesn't happen, it's stopped and doesn't stop. There's a story to the whole city that can never stop.
That is a character that still, I think, has not been mined the way he could be.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. There's so many stories you could do with that.
Well, anyway, we can talk about this forever. We are obviously well over the episode. We didn't even talk nearly as much about the like what is real, what is not stuff as we could have.
Oh, yeah.
But there's so much to delve into with this, and I guess that's why we like it as much as we do, regardless of the couple issues we found and the fact that there's nothing with a flare gun.
Yeah, why did he say that? Why did he say? You could have just cut the line. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, but it's some of the most fun line delivery in the whole episode. So I'm glad it's there.
Yeah.
But I don't know why it's there. Well, anyway, everybody, thanks as always for watching. Is there a director commentary on this one?
I think so.
I want to say there is. I'm gonna have to watch that because I didn't watch that before this and see if maybe they mention the flare gun thing in that because I haven't listened to that obviously in a long time.
Yeah, because they tend to point out holes in their own stuff all the time with those.
Yes.
Really is a commentary. I just haven't listened to it either.
I know I've listened to all of these, but it's been so long.
Yeah.
Thanks again for watching, folks. Sure hope you enjoyed it. We'd love to see your comments about what you think of this episode and anything we brought up during this. Steve, next time is another episode I like quite a lot, which is the Cape and Cowl conspiracy. I'm very excited to talk about that one. That's the first Hugo Strange episode.
Yeah.
No, is it? Is that Hugo? No, Cape and Cowl. Is that Hugo Strange?
I don't think
it's not. It's a different guy, isn't it?
Let me look in.
I said that, and now I'm like, that's not Hugo Strange. That's that other dude.
No. It's the other guy.
That could have been Hugo Strange pretty easily, but wasn't.
Yeah. What was his name? Witter or something like that.
I don't remember. Well, anyway, I guess we'll be talking about that next week. And in the meantime, I am Captain Logan.
I'm Steve Baxi.
And we'll see you next time.